I'll pass them up.
Did I not save it? Keep changes.
There's a role.
It is perfect. Oh, I see what you're saying.
I'll definitely check that out. Folks, to make sure, because otherwise the arrangement can be adjusted. Oh, right, so, but. So. Yeah.
Take the cable, yes.
For the same question. Yeah.
No one will meeting starts, so.
Appreciate it. Okay, so, no, you're good.
Yes. Screen sharing. Yeah, when I first started working here about 2 years ago, Zoom would open in the website online, and it wouldn't show the bar whenever you share your screen. So I would have trouble trying to manage
Yes.
but the app actually lets you see all this stuff.
I think so. Check my calendar.
Remember someone like join the meeting, but yes. It's kind of hard to like check that and then listen and make sure click through. But yeah, I'm seeing problems.
But I guess that one. Like when it's. Yeah. You're the judge. That's a fine name. And they took science. Actually, yeah, you're supposed to, you can't, you're a proxy.
So, you say they replaced Deidre with city council.
Right, good reading. All these pictures are. I'm better looking and have more hair, right?
How are you doing?
How are you?
I'm good.
Oh, I got dust all over me, sir.
You're getting stuff done, huh?
Oh.
How are you?
How are you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You maybe was gonna ask for one.
Assuming you saw this. I did. Oh. I think silent dashboards is announced to people that anybody who wants to check it out.
Yeah.
Scared you.
Yeah.
18 years, 7 months.
Yes. Late. That's what we're talking about.
Reading and sleep back in private sector.
He's probably trained to use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got your name on your?
Yeah. I do like it. It's comfortable.
Yeah, the sleeves are really long on mine, they're unisex. And I could, I'll make it.
You have to be back here at 3:30.
I know.
I can hang out. I can hang out with you after the meeting. I have to be back here at the same time too.
Yeah. She just see what I do. That's her. Lift the table so I can talk fat about it or something. It's been a while. How you doing? That's on the book.
Well, no. Oh, yeah. It's right here. Just and then just. She's.
Business 77. It's the between university parts and.
Except for they're extending it to the university.
Yeah, like until now, it was only to
To the river. Now they're gonna redesign that bridge. And then they're gonna put like.
Yeah. So not just the one with the train tracks.
You could put the trunk spot. So they said it was ready to go. I don't know. Do you want me to have them come talk to you about it?
Can you just tell him that, is he okay to just say a few words?
When it's gonna be gone.
So if we can actually
Okay,
discuss
I'll tell him.
adding the information.
Jacob. You can hang out with us. Stickers and.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Jacob, anytime I see you.
Yeah, are you talking, I didn't see anything on the slide about the mayor like.
Except.
Everything,
Yeah, we can do it, because we didn't put it together.
Yeah, we did think about it.
We just talked about it here.
Or you can tell them,
The jury's still out.
well, no, we don't have anybody committed, we don't have anybody reporting on what we did last night, so. Or we could just mention.
Oh.
Yeah, I'll just mention it and I'll just say that more details and not be there as well. I need to Luzon.
I forgot what our first name is.
Isabel,
Let me ask Danielle,
Isabel or Isabella.
let me ask her.
Yeah, so we had our citizen participation meeting yesterday. And then the fourth graders from Kensington joined our. So they all joined in virtually. Yeah, it was fantastic.
So.
I just felt like just say something. That is like Isabella Luzon.
Tell them about the configuration. I don't know, they said somebody called and said that we want the original configuration. We had it on there, so we.
Doing fine. No wildfires.
God.
Sorry, Tia.
Running out of benefits, like 100 million. Anyway, just got here, we had to go to the funeral. So I have a song. We got out there.
So we need to. It's been a while.
Introduce this, the guy, blue shirt,
Yes.
brother Rick.
Okay,
He's my Uber.
okay, what I think.
Sorry to interrupt. Appreciate all the good work, Richie Road, the sidewalk. Just got to see the way out. Sorry.
And it's like the whole city.
That's why I was talking to you yesterday. You called us, let's call us.
It's something because I don't think there's not a full. Yes, that's my
I like it.
I'm wearing it out again.
You're doing great. A little emphasis. Response.
Yeah.
You're doing more than it. We just do one day on Thursday, and it's 8 containers on the ground.
Yeah.
And then Thursday.
I'm just thinking that maybe.
Yeah.
I had a lady.
Yeah. Say more.
Is there anybody looking at?
Yeah. Hard to do other. Beginning of the fiscal year.
Oh, we have 10.
We get
Sure, sure.
That's
Too. I said this one.
Anyway.
Good afternoon. I think we can get started now that we apparently have a quorum, so we will call our meeting to order. March 20th, 2025, meeting of the Waco MPO Policy Board at 1:35 p.m. Dr. Kumar, has this meeting been posted?
Yes.
Are there any councils that need to be called into session?
No.
Not the city of Waco Council.
Not the City of Waco Council, anyway. All right. Be that as it may, let me, and maybe today's a good time to bring this up. And then again, maybe it might not be, but if you look around the room, we're minus quite a few people today. So it's getting to be very imperative that we get people that will submit proxies if they're going to be not able to attend, or better yet, please attend and plan on being here. I have been instructed and told that part of our bylaws, and one of the things in those bylaws is attendance, and attendance is being kept. So we certainly don't want to have anyone that participates in this group lose a seat for 3 consecutive absences or something of that nature. So please help pass that word around. That would be helpful, and we'll hopefully get a full room going in the future.
Mr. Chair, for the record, also a tardy is not an absence, is that correct?
That's correct. In particular, if it's been excused. So, let's move on to item number 2, public hearing. We allow the public to address the MPO Policy Board on any agenda item. Please complete a speaker's registration card with the MPO staff. Speakers will be allotted 1 presentation at the beginning of the agenda for each item the speaker wishes to address. Please note that each action item will have a separate public hearing later in the agenda. Speakers can address the board at either time, but you will only be allowed 1 opportunity to address the board per agenda item. Daniel?
Brindamos una oportunidad para que el público se dirija a la Junta de Políticas de MPO sobre cualquier tema de la agenda. Completa una tarjeta de registro de orador con el personal MPO. A los oradores se les asignará una presentación al comienzo de la agenda por cada tema de la agenda que el orador desea abordar. Tengan en cuenta que cada punto de acción tendrá una ausencia pública separada más adelante en la agenda. Los oradores tienen la opción de dirigirse a la Junta de cualquier momento, pero solo se les permitirá una oportunidad para dirigirse a la Junta en cualquier de los momentos. Pero solo se le permitirá una oportunidad de dirigirse a la Junta directiva por cada punto del orden del día.
Thank you. For items not on today's agenda, visitors have a separate hearing at the end of the meeting. MPO staff, do we have any registered speakers today?
No.
Oh, with none. No registered speakers, so we will move to agenda item number 3. Approval of minutes of the February 20th, 25 meeting. Copy of the minutes was provided in your meeting packet. Are there any corrections to the minutes as submitted? Be that as it may, then the minutes are approved as presented. Item number 4, consideration and possible action regarding resolution 2025-7, adoption of amendment 1 to the 2025-2028 Transportation Improvement Program. Dr. Kumar.
Thank you. So this is the first amendment we are considering for the 2025-28 Transportation Improvement Program. And we are making some changes into this tip, which is also going to trigger some changes into our 2050 MTP that we just adopted. And I'll give a somewhat detailed, but not an extreme amount of detail version of the changes that we are proposing. And so we did a call for proposal for program and plan amendments for 2025. And we received three proposals from TxDOT to make some changes into the 2025-28 TIP. And we also received 38 proposals from TIP. And so some of you may have a question about the 3 versus 38. What typically happens is that that number 38 would typically be significantly lower in most of the years. But this year we are completely redoing how transit projects are listed in the TIP. And therefore we took every project that transit has and reconfigured it so that it fits exactly according to the guidelines provided by the FDA recently. And so for all practical purposes, we are re-entering all the transit projects into the TIP process. And hence we have 38 projects from the TIP that covers every possible project. So it's not just the changes, but every project that was previously listed is getting relisted according to the new guidelines. There was no other proposal submitted for any other plans or programs. Transit proposals, I also wanted to point out that they are time sensitive because there are some funds that need to be spent by September 30th. And therefore, we are going to ensure that all transit projects are approved during the May revision of the TIP. And so that's why they're slated for that. For the roadway portion, there are some changes for the state funding adjustment, which will be included in the May of the state revision. And then there are some federal funding adjustments, which can be done after the May quarterly revision. And just as a background information, each year TxDOT opens the state revision 4 times, and each of them is considered a quarterly revision. And once we do the amendment, whatever the nearest quarterly revision is what we're aiming for. In this particular case, all the transit and some of the roadway proposals are scheduled to be entered for the May revision of this TIP. So for the 2025-2028 TIP that was adopted on May 16 of last year, 2024, it had originally programmed $392 million worth of project for transit and highway projects over a 4-year time frame. And what we're doing with this proposed amendment for the May TIP is we are adding some federal and state funds to the transit projects. We are also adding federal funds for alternative fuel station construction that we will discuss in a bit of detail slightly later. And we are adding state funds to develop 2 of the highway projects. And overall, we are adding just under $45 million of additional projects into the TIP. Next slide. So because of the changes that we are making, what we are adding 18 new projects for Waco Transit, which will total $8.17 million. And overall, it will increase $7.7 million in federal funding, and is also adding about half a million dollars in state and local funding. And because of the changes, it will require that we also change the project IDs in the MTP. And so this is going to get adjusted for both the TIP and MTP, because the TIP approval often depends on the consistency with how the projects are listed in the long range plan, which is our MTP. Another major change we're doing is that we're removing the grouping of projects, some of the transit projects, which used to be the case from Appendix F, and we are listing all of them separately. And so overall, total transit funding over the 4-year period for the 38 projects is going to be about $44 million. Next slide. For the highway funding portion of it, we're proposing there are 2 major changes that we're making. So what it is doing is it is adding about $19.4 million in state funds for TxDOT to develop 2 of the projects that were listed in the 2050 MTP, State Highway 6 from Brazos River to the Marlin Highway, as well as US Business 77, which previously ended at the river, and this is being extended to the University Parks Drive, or FM 434. What it does is that it adds $16.5 million in preliminary engineering phases, and also adds about $3 million for right-of-way acquisition phases. Construction for all of these projects, for both of these projects, along with others, are slated for 2029 or beyond, so it does not affect our fiscal constraint. So at this point, I also wondered if, Victor, if you want to add more information to any of the projects.
So basically, just for clarification, State Highway 6 from Brazos River to 44, that's actually the second piece of our Loop 340 project that actually gets us the ultimate section from Brazos River all the way up to the city park. I mean, like I said, the other one is Business 77. That's the corridor study precinct was did for the MPO several years ago. But we do have a consultant on board. Certainly, let's give us a schematic for that.
Thank you. Next slide. Another project we are adding to the TIP is at one point in time, I think in a couple of meetings, we had explained that NCTCOG had applied for hydrogen fuel cell fueling station locations across the Texas Triangle area. And one of the locations considered is in the Waco MPO planning area. And so they have 2, one in Dallas, one in Fort Worth, one in Houston, one in San Antonio, and one in Waco. And so what we're doing is, and this is being done in conjunction with the Flying J truck. So the Waco area location And that's going to get determined by the Flying J, because they're the primary location with whom the NCT card had applied for it. So in case of Waco, Flying J has 2 locations, one in Robinson and one near New Road, and both right on I-35. And so that's up to Flying J location to choose which one they are going to do. But since this is a federal fund that is going to be spent in the MPO planning area, we have to include it in our 4-year transportation improvement program. So what we're doing is we are adding $16.34 million of Category 10 funding to our TIP, and this is adjusting, and it reflects the federal fund that NCT COG is receiving from the Department of Energy that's going to be used for design and construction of hydrogen fueling facility in the county. And so, again, even though this project is not an MPO project, it's an NCT COG project, but by law, since this is federal fund being spent in the MPO boundary for Waco, it needs to be included in the Waco MPO's document. So that's what we're doing. Next slide. So to summarize some of this, the total funding adjustment we're doing is as follows. We're increasing the federal funding by about $24 million, $7.7 million is the transit adjustment, 16.3 million is the alternative fuel station from the NCT COG. The state and local increase will total about $20 million, of which about $500,000 is the transit adjustment as requested, and about $19.5 million in PE and right-of-way acquisition from TxDOT. And all of this combined adds up to about $44 million, and these are the changes we plan to make in the May revision of the STIP. This also triggers a bunch of changes in the appendices of the entire TIP. Appendix A has to be updated every time we make the changes to reflect the current composition of Policy Board, Technical Advisory Committee, and the staff rosters at the time. Appendix D reflects all the 2 additional highway projects that are undergoing the environmental assessment. And Appendix F reflects the groupings of the highway project that are not regionally significant. And so they can financially constrain at the statewide level, so we don't have to constrain them at the TIP level. And Appendix G reflects all the current performance standards that we typically adopt, which you adopted at the last meeting, and so we'll be updating that also as part of this quarterly revision. Next slide. So to provide the overall summary of all of this, so we are restructuring all the transit project category and the project numbers to better reflect how these funds are going to be spent over the 2025 to 28 fiscal year. We are adding the 5310. Those are the 2 new projects from the transit that was not there earlier, and which reflect the resources that are available for improvement in accessible transportation for seniors, as well as individuals with disabilities. And we are also extending the project limit of Business 77, as well as Loop 340 Highway 6. And we're expecting that this change is going to serve the better community better, and does not require any change to the delivery cost estimate. We did a call for program and amendment, and we had a public engagement schedule that ran from February 21 to March 2nd. And the public was invited to submit their comment in person or online. And we held a public informational meeting on February 27th at 5 p.m. The Technical Advisory Committee reviewed and informally recommended on the May 6th meeting. And the public hearing and the Policy Board action is scheduled for today on March 20th. And before I would be amiss if I did not mention that this was the first time we did a formal call for proposal process. And so it required quite a bit of tinkering and experimenting with what software is going to work properly, how are people going to be entering information, and all the staff worked quite a bit to create that format in which we're going to receive information. And throughout the process, there was no way we could have succeeded in getting it done as well as it turned out to be without help from staff from TxDOT, especially Nicole, Victor, and Brenton, and the staff from Transit, both Jana and Serena. And so we are very appreciative of all the hard work that you all put in, not only helping us design the system, but also run tests and such to make sure that it actually works as we expect it to work. So, which gets us to the action item.
So is there any question or comment at this point in time, anyone? then I think we need to open a public hearing, do we not, Dr. Moore? So we'll open a public hearing for resolution 2025-7, an adoption of amendment 1 to the 2025-2028 Transportation Improvement Program at 1:53 p.m. Is there anybody that would like to address this item? We don't have any. So I guess we'll close the public hearing at 1:53 p.m. Do we have any further discussion? We have a motion for resolution 2025-7.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor, those signify by saying yay. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Adopted. We'll move on to item number 5. Consideration of possible action regarding resolution 2025-8. Adoption of amendment 1 to convey 2050, the Waco Area Metropolitan Transportation Plan. Dr. Kumar.
So this is part of the same document. All we are doing is changing the project IDs in our, so there is no further item to present in this matter. So we just need a separate motion and second and passing of the resolution. 25-28.
Still need to have a public hearing before.
Yes.
Okay. So with this being very similarly situated to the previous action item, this is resolution 2025-8, an adoption of amendment 1 to convey 2050, the Waco Area Metropolitan Transportation Plan. Open a public hearing at 1:55 p.m. Anyone that wants to address this matter? Comment to this matter? We have no one, so we'll close that public hearing at 1:55 p.m. And is there a motion for resolution number 2025-8? Motion, second? The second. A motion and a second. Those in favor indicate by saying yay. Those not in favor indicate by saying nay. Resolution's adopted. Moving on to item number 6, update and discussion on current grant efforts. Dr. Kumar.
So at the let's move, we'll bring it back to the emergency meeting for the update. So the first item I wanted to bring to your attention is that the RAISE grant from FY 2023, that's the Smart Corridor Planning Initiative, in which we're taking the 9-mile corridor beginning at Taylor Street at I-35 onto Franklin Avenue, onto Spur 298, onto US 84, until Ritchie Road. The RFQ has been released, and we are expecting that by April and May, we would be bringing in consultants for approval, for your consideration for approve. And one of the items we wanted to make sure that we were clear about is that we are including the PSN, full PSNE for the corridor, because our expectation is that once we complete the planning process, we'll immediately apply for construction funds from the RAISE grant. However, I should also mention that the RAISE grant has been renamed and is called BUILD. And so if you hear the changes, they are still the same grant, but it used to be called BUILD before, and it has been brought back to be called BUILD. And so from time to time, we will be using the terminology BUILD versus RAISE, but it is the 2023 RAISE grant that we are reporting on. We also had received a SMART grant in which we're prioritizing multimodal access using AI edge sensors across different locations. And at this point in time, SMART grant is being reviewed by the current administration, and I do not have any further update at what point in time we are going to be able to execute the grant and move forward. The moment we have any further information, we'll bring it to your attention. Next slide. In the, for the Safe Street for All SS4A 2023, we have taken 6 demonstration projects across Waco, Hewitt, Robinson, and Bellmead. The RFQ has been completed, and we are very close to completing the contract with the tool design group. We're in the final stage of discussion on the exact terms of the contract. But we're very close to finishing up, and we should be starting very soon. I can't give you exact date yet because lawyers sometimes need a little extra time, but we will be starting soon on that. For the demonstration project grant, which was for FY 2024, this was for the sign inventory in McLennan County and several other local municipalities, in which I wanted to give you a little bit of background on this again, because so City of Waco already has a sign inventory in the GIS layer, so it knows exactly what signs are where, which ones are damaged, which ones need to be located and such. But that is not true for most of the local municipalities or areas outside the City of Waco boundary. And so we wrote this 2024 SS4A grant to take an assessment of all the signage, traffic-related signage across McLennan County, and we were successful in getting it. And what we are doing right now is, and we want to get your feedback today about how do we want to structure it, because before we go ahead and execute that grant, it is important for us to know how do we structure it in terms of how it's going to work out. So let's go to the next slide, where we wanted to show you what we are. Can we just jump to one more slide and I'll come back to this? So what our thought process is that this was a total of $1 million project, in which half of that would be needed for the unincorporated portions of McLennan County. And based on our preliminary discussion with Zane, Durham County engineer, it would probably require us roughly about $500,000 to complete all the sign inventory for the entire county. But along with that, we also have several cities smaller than 5,000 who are represented on the policy board. Most of them also do not have a GIS database of their sign inventory. And so they had also expressed their interest in how to do it. And our understanding is that for 6 municipalities that are larger than 5,000 population, but larger than 5,000, but not the central city of Waco, it will require us roughly about $50,000 each to complete the sign inventory in each of those areas, in which we can cover the $240,000 through the federal fund, and it will be short by about $60,000, which we would expect to be the local match. And the cities that are smaller than 5,000, so typically all the cities that are represented in a policy board, such as the Northeast and the Southern cities. These are cities that have population of more than 1,000, but less than 5,000. Most of them have very few signage that are there, but we were thinking that it would be important to include them in this process as well. And we are expecting that that will cost us a total of about $50,000. And we can cover up to $40,000 in the federal funds for that. And the rest of the cities that are smaller than 1,000, most of them have very, very small budgets, so we cannot expect them to directly participate in this through a local match. And so we are hoping to be able to cover them without cost to them. And that adds up to about $850,000. We do have up to we'll be left with about $150,000 to cover the rest. So that's sort of the big breakdown of what it is going to look like. And we wanted to get, we wanted to think if you had any thoughts on that. Next slide. So this is roughly what it's going to look like. So the cities that are larger than 5,000 are Bellmead, Hewitt, Lacey, Lakeview, McGregor, Robinson, and Woodway. And cities that are between 1,000 and 5,000 are Beverly Hills, Bruceville, Eddy, Colson, Lorena, Mart, Moody, Riesel, and West. So these are the cities that are between 5,000 and 1,000. And cities that are smaller than 1,000, the examples are Crawford, Golinda, Hallsburg, Leroy. We wanted to get your thoughts if that seems like a reasonable, because we're not asking you to take any action on it. We wanted to get your thoughts so that we can bring it as an action item for you at the next meeting.
So Dr. Kumar, what would really be nice to know is who wants to participate, correct, at this point in time?
Yes.
Definitively.
Yes.
And when would that be, would it be timely to know that by the next meeting?
Ideally, yes.
Ideally, yes. So if these other communities such as Hewitt wanted to participate in this, they would need to basically be prepared with their portion of the grant,
The 20%, yes,
20%.
yes.
For anybody who's here representing the other cities today, would that be a difficulty to know definitively by April?
We wanted to get your thought on, if that makes, this breakdown makes sense to you. So that we will be sending you a formal email requesting you to either join the 2020 for SS4A or not.
Do we need to do anything else in this matter today?
No, today we just wanted to get your thoughts and opinion on it.
Anybody else have any thoughts? Comments?
I have one couple of questions. Come on, maybe you mentioned this, I missed it. Were we talking about the grant efforts when you get kind of a little bullet points? Or do all these require like a match?
Yes, so there is a 20% match for all overall, and so
Each one of these will.
Yeah.
20% match.
yes, so what we're expecting, so in our breakdown, what is going to look like is that that for the McLennan County unincorporated portions, for that area, we're expecting it to cost about $500,000 to do it. And so 400,000 is the federal money that we will have, and 100,000 will come from the county. Similarly, for each of the cities, for instance, that are smaller than, that are larger than 5,000, but not City of Waco, it'll be about $50,000 each. And of 50,000 or 40,000 will be the federal match, and the city will have to match it at 10,000.
The cash to this, can the small cities do any kind of an in-kind match, or do they need to pony up the cash?
For this one, I'm not clear if there is any possibility of in-kind match at all, because in this case, this will be a straightforward hiring of a consultant who have the vehicles that typically have cameras and sensors that can drive through and take the images and the geocode each of the signage, and also run the reflectivity level of the sign so that we can get a condition assessment on these. And so this is actually going to be a pretty straightforward data collection. We will have some amount of, very small amount of demonstration components. So for instance, in each of the areas, we will take one of the most important signage that we might notice and go ahead and replace that as part of the demonstration, and do some before after data collection on whether it made any change to the safety conditions. Yes, the county will have a GIS database. We did discuss it that that a lot of smaller cities, for instance, they do not have staff to actually maintain the GIS database themselves. And so the county engineer, will be managing that entire GIS there for the signage across the county. Right now, to the best of our knowledge, City of Waco is the only entity which already has a GIS database for all the signage.
Any other thoughts, comments? Anything else?
Yes, so let's go back to the yes, map, yeah, next one, yes. So for FY 2025, again, we're not asking for you to take an action today, but at the April meeting, we will request your permission to give the staff go ahead to start putting together the application for this. And so FY 2025 SS4A, to our knowledge, it is the notice of funding opportunity is going to come out. And when it comes out, staff would like to some direction from you. So what our thought process is that in this round, we should emphasize the schools themselves, the exact school locations across the county. And our thought process is that we take one block area around every school and map it out. And within that, after doing a safety assessment, what we would like to do is run some demonstration project with the expectation of assigning a toolkit. And what we have in mind right now is that schools vary in their characteristics across the county. There are some schools that are in a purely rural area where all the children are either taking the bus or they're getting picked up and dropped off. But then there are also neighborhood schools inside city of Waco, for instance, that are fully integrated into the neighborhood itself, where you have a large number of children who are walking and biking to school and not that many children are getting dropped off. And then you have some suburban school districts where the school locations require that a large number of children are getting dropped off and not a lot of vehicular bus location or bus movement. And we also have the big difference between older schools and newer schools. So new schools have a very different queuing system for their vehicular movement, but the older schools may be designed at a time when more children were walking and biking to school. So they have challenges with the safety considerations and all of it. So what our initial thought is that what we could do is that by running demonstration project for instance, just as an example, 6 different locations, we could create 6 different types of safety actions that we could be taking that would cover almost every school district. And this will then allow us to start applying for implementation for wherever it is feasible. And so that's our initially thought for writing the grant proposal for the 2025 SS4A. And all the work we do in that will of course get added into the Waco area comprehensive safety action plan. So on this one also, we wondered if you had any thought direction to the staff, and we'll bring it for your action at the April meeting.
Mark, what was the MPO staff assisted with the city of Waco with grant funds for the sidewalk on Richard Road that extended out? Was that one of these types of grants? Or?
No, that was the CRP fund. Yeah, that was the carbon reduction program.
We're very grateful for the MPO's work.
We do have, sorry.
I'm sorry, I was gonna ask you, when you go to talking about developing this concept and making a grant application for it, you're gonna get input from each of the school district superintendents?
Yes.
Or what?
So our goal is that, so, you know, unless we hear opposition from you, we'll be inviting every ISD to our comprehensive safety action plan, which already is being attended as we speak. From representatives from Waco ISD, Midway ISD, La Vega ISD, and McGregor ISD. So the 3 ISDs are already represented there, and we'll be inviting every ISD in the county to our next safety action plan to let them know that this is what we're doing, and this is entirely focused on the schools. The point to remember, though, is that the schools often pay attention to where the right-of-way ends, which is typically the school property, but most of the roadways, which we would be considering here, they're all mostly going to be either TxDOT right-of-ways or they're going to be city right-of-ways. And so because we're just taking one block from the city and developing a toolkit for every school in the country, in the county.
Any other thoughts, comments?
No, so I just wanted to remind you, so at the, we'll be asking for directive action at the April Policy Board. Can you move to the next slide? Yes. At the April Policy Board meeting on those 2 items, the decision on the cost sharing model for the 2024 sign inventory project, as well as your direction on submitting application for 2025 SS4A on school safety planning.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item number 7 on the agenda, update and discussion on MPO redesignation.
Unfortunately, I do not have anything beyond that. It is still at the governor's office, and and we have requested the TxDOT representative at TPMP to follow up, and currently we are in legislative session, and at this point in time, we have no idea how far this item is buried at the governor's desk at the point. So I don't have any new update today.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item number 8, update and discussion from the Technical Advisory Committee. Well, Zane's not here, but Amy is.
So the technical advisory committee met on March sixth, discussed the same results about the 2025 culture plan and program amendments that we discussed here a little while ago. We did recommend that you adopt the proposed amendments that you did. And we received updates on the current grants that we were just talking about, and Clayton's update, which we're about to receive, and the work groups also. So that was the extent of our meeting. Any questions?
Thank you, Amy.
You're welcome.
All right. Agenda item number 9. Update discussion for the Texas Department of Transportation regarding significant highway construction within the Waco metropolitan area. Clayton.
State Highway 31, very similar to last month, continuing to work on the embankment for the new main lane overpasses. 2311 itself will be starting pavement rehab work this week, so you'll see some of that old pavement shoot up, spread out for the new widening. Still on target for that completion of next fall or end of next year. One thing to note is we're looking at probably the late April into May timeframe for the full closure of 2311 to replace the bridges there in the middle of the project. As soon as that date is firmed up, we'll get that word out. This is US 84 overlay. This is the east side of the interstate. So from Bellmead Drive out to 31. Texas Materials is our contractor. They'll move in next week to start milling operations. They'll be on the east end of the job at 31, working their way into town. They'll kind of complete the area outside of the loop first as its own project, and then move into the in-town section. Everything out of town will be primarily daytime, daytime, in town will be at night. Completion end of this calendar year, early part of next. Our Waco Drive overlay, this is a job that's pushed a little bit. We're looking to start in mid-April. I'm still looking at an early 2026 completion for this project. And again, as we get some schedule info tied down, we'll get that word out to the city and local partners as well. I-35 4C. So we started it end of February. Primary focus has been on the south end of the project from Loop 340 up to Irving Lee, primarily on the northbound frontage road side. We'll go to the next slide. So this is the south end of the project from Loop 340 looking north. In this section, we've closed the left lane, started removing pavement here, set barrier. Traffic is pushed to the right-hand side of the frontage road here and then opens back up at New Road. Moving north, this is from New Road looking north. The right lane is closed here to start on utility work and then rebuilding the east half of the frontage road here. And then moving up to Irving Lee Primrose. One thing to note is along LaSalle, kind of in front of the roadhouse area, we've shifted traffic from northbound to southbound, so everybody's on the same side of the roadway here. And that's to complete drainage work. So we'll start on the downstream end, flip traffic over once that has been completed, and work our way across, ultimately ending up at the interstate. And it's not on here, but Twin Bridges, we actually have our pre-construction meeting next week with contractor. So end of March, first part of April, you should start seeing some activity out there. Primarily getting their bulkheads in, barges in place, getting ready to start on foundation. So everything will be out of traffic to start. We'll begin as we get more scheduling over next year. Questions? Appreciate it.
Thank you, Clay.
If so there is an I-35 communication steering group meeting today at 3:30 here in this room. So if there is anything important that you would like us to discuss in that meeting, please do let us know. And Jake is here too, so to conduct that meeting.
At 2:30 or 3:30?
3:30.
Anything else, Dr. Moore? All right. Moving on to agenda item number 10, work group updates. Are there any members of the MPO work groups who would like to give an update on recent activities?
So a lot of our work group members, I think, are completely exhausted of having worked so hard in the last month. So, they needed a break. So I'm going to give you some amount of update. The most exciting one that we have is that we have finally gotten the citizen participation work group underway. And it met yesterday. And what is even more exciting about the citizen participation group meeting was, if you can go to the next slide,
we had the 4th and 5th graders from Kendrick Elementary join us for the entire work group meeting. And we wanted to make sure that their participation was understood about what role do they play, because most of the decisions we are making here today, it's most likely not going to affect any of us sitting here in this room, but it will almost definitely affect them. And so we wanted to make sure that we had a mechanism to not only bring them into discussions, but also make them aware of, how some of the decisions we're making is going to be affecting the choices that they make. And so we were very excited about this. Principal Lozano, she managed to organize that meeting with the 4th and 5th graders, which was fantastic. We also discussed primarily that how we can improve our citizen participation processes. So this particular work group is not necessarily a substitute for citizen participation at all, but what it is supposed to do is improve not only our outreach and activities that we do, but how do we even process, what does it make, what kind of input are we looking at? Is it really just about public comment and checking off boxes, or is it really about helping make decisions that are better than what would have been otherwise? And so we had a fantastic 2-hour-long meeting. There was the very first meeting, and it was amazing to see the 4th, 5th graders so interested in fact, largely telling us, what we should be doing, which was fantastic. And so we had that. We also had a bike pedestrian work group meeting on February 19th, and we also had a planning meeting yesterday, as well as the book discussion meeting on Happy City. And one of the things we want to update you is that May is the bike month, and we are planning to undertake several activities. One of the important ones that we're doing is, and again, this is the Kendrick Elementary has sort of featured quite significantly into this because they are very close to the Pecan Bottom Park. And so for a lot of these activities, that location just happens to be perfect for us. So we are organizing a bike bus, which essentially means that all the children decorate their bikes and they collectively, instead of riding a bus, they're riding their bikes for that. And so we'll be doing this in conjunction with Kendrick Elementary in the month of May. We had a planning meeting yesterday. As we finalize these events, we'll bring it to you. And so April meeting will happen prior to that. And so between now and April, we'll have a lot of this planned out because we need quite a bit of activity, parents' permission slip and all that stuff. And so we need to make sure that all that is taken care of. And the expectation is that we'll start at the school, which right now is at the Indian Springs building, and it goes from there to the convention center, and then goes back out on the Pecan Bottom Park and the Cameron Park, and then comes back to the school, and that's where it's released. And we are also requesting several businesses and such to participate in this activity so that it seems like it's a community effort and not just well, it is a community effort, and we are just trying to organize it together. So those are the updates we have. We have scheduled the Mobility, Land Use and Technology Committee work group meeting for April 16th. And as a reminder, each of these work groups aren't necessarily substitute for anything, except that this is where we get to literally just sit down for half an hour to 30 minutes, brainstorm and how could we do any of this better, and write down these ideas, and then it filters through to presentations at the TAC, and then from there it comes to you. And so by the time it comes to you for any consideration, it has already been thought through at the work groups and the TAC, so that what we're presenting to you is a much more finished product. Anything else, Dr. Kumar? Okay, any questions? Thank you. Announcements, agenda item number 12, the next regularly scheduled MPO Policy Board meeting will not be item number 12, will be item number 11, MPO monthly report. So we are finally super excited that we might actually be, if not the only one, we are pretty unique MPO that actually has speed radar traffic trailers. And Sergeant Ashworth is here to actually not only give us some information on how to use it, but we're very happy that we were able to purchase 3 trailers with this idea that several local municipalities across McLennan County do not have these speed radar traffic trailers. And so the idea is that we had the resources to go ahead and acquire 3 of them from the statewide SBR funds that was allocated to the MPO. And now what we can do is that they can be loaned to any municipality in the county. And we're drafting the interlocal agreement at this point in time. Sergeant Ashworth has been very kind to store it and manage it, and he's an expert at this, obviously. And so he has also very kindly agreed to train anybody who might want to know what to do and how to use them. One of the important thing I wanted to mention is which we TxDOT the SPR fund uses requirement is that we cannot use the speed radar traffic trailers for any law enforcement purposes. So we cannot use it. You cannot use it to write tickets for people who are speeding. Our primary goal here is to really engage in collecting better quality data on safety. So just to give you some example, this comes up all the time. That so new bike lane gets put up somewhere. So right now I think one of the important one is States Drive in Woodway, for instance. The 4-lane was converted into 3-lane with bike pedestrian facility, and there has been significant discussion on why would you want to do that? And in fact, it turns out that just recently, North Carolina DOT completed a study of all such projects in Asheville, and what they can and their data collection showed that overall crashes declined by 30% immediately following that construction. And it wasn't even bike pedestrian crashes; these were actually vehicle-to-vehicle crashes. And so these kinds of projects are, in fact, very important for safety purposes. So our goal, again, is to make sure that we are collecting data on some of these, that how does it actually affect the vehicular safety itself. And as we collect data, then we can have better informed discussions on that. We will also be using it for data collection based on the circumstances, where do we find higher incidences of speeding, by how much and such. And so at the MPO, since we have prioritized safety to that point, and from time to time, we'll be presenting to you the findings that we have. And so Sergeant Ashworth, you wanted to say a few things?
Yes, so basically, these trailers, they can collect quite a bit of data for us, speed, counts, time. Those I've actually seen, Makesh, a kind of a survey that we've done within the city and it's basically the gamut of the different, minus any kind of law enforcement ones, because there are law enforcement ones in there. That tells you, and we can send it every bit of that to any entity that wants it. And it just gives us that information of how much traffic am I having during this time period, how much of that is, speeding or whatnot during certain times and whatnot. Now, one of the things we're talking about not doing a law enforcement is the red and blues will not come on. So that those trailers do have the capability to have red and blues on them. I actually turned that up way up. So, those will not come on. It will still flash at people if they go over the speed limit. There again, that's more of a reminder. Hey, bring it back down a little bit. I can put it in test mode and show you all how it works out here. And then don't have any questions or whatnot about it. This particular trailer can be configured. It can go up higher, so it can be put on TxDOT roadways. However, I need to let TxDOT know. So if anybody wants to use the trailer in a certain spot, I need to let TxDOT know before we go and put that thing out there. Just for, so they're aware it's out there. I have to put cones around it and make sure plus the location has to be good for it. Just because you want to put it in a specific spot, that trailer's actually got a pretty good sized footprint. It's got to be able to sit there, or we have to make accommodations for it. But we pretty much, like its version right now is what I would call more of the city version. It's sitting in right now, but it can raise up. I can put the legs out further to where it'll be more stable, especially in the winds we've been having lately. So whatever, pretty much it'll generate quite a bit of data that we need. We use it for our enforcement side. Obviously, we have a different one but it does the same thing for our enforcement side. But it also tells us how many people are coming through an area. What does that traffic look like? What times does that traffic, worsen in there, and how does that correlate to the speeding? So, because one of the things we found is that some of the higher speeds is less traffic. So more traffic, there was actually less speeding. So that when we can see that in our data. But if y'all want to come out and take a look at it, I'll be out there for a while.
Yeah, so we have it out in the, we were afraid that, some people would be testing their speeds with that. But we actually this time. But it's there.
This is not a slippery slope to acquire other law enforcement equipment like MPO SWAT cars, SWAT vehicles or anything like that. It's just data gathering.
Yes, it is purely data gathering and we will be, we have already enhanced our in-house capacity to do data analysis on safety related stuff quite a bit. And we're going to keep adding to it and at some point in time, we want to start putting some of the white papers, like here's what we have done, it has worked and this is what has not worked. And so this is how we're shifting. And as you notice that each year with the SS4A grants, we have been able to significantly enhance the level of safety related activity we undertake.
And they can sit on the station for a while because it has solar panel on the side. We have left ours out in a space for a month or so. Actually, the one we have currently, it's set up to be charged if need be. We've been running that thing for weeks without ever even letting it sit. So we put it up next to the zoo up there on South or on North 4th Street, just to slow people down going that are headed up to the zoo the last couple of weeks. And sometimes that's just what we use it for. And that may be a use that you may need. Maybe you have a construction zone that just needs something to slow down. We put it out there for that. It doesn't necessarily have to be for data collection. Maybe you just need a work zone to be safer.
I understand there's also a bucket of baseballs out there. If anybody's wanting to test their fastball out, you can do that.
I have a funny story.
Can you move to the next slide? So the MKT trail was opened on March 6th and Mayor Holmes was ribbon cutting there. One of the things I wanted to add was that similar to Ritchie Road sidewalk project, there were 2 tree planting projects that the carbon reduction program was able to fund. And at the MKT trail, there were a few questions about where are the trees? And we said, well, it's, trees take a while to grow, but one of the nice things is that that we were able to fund a significant number of tree installation for the entire duration of it, and totaling about $625,000 from the carbon reduction program. And once these trees, and I believe that most of the trees planted are fast growing trees, so we are expecting them to start providing shade pretty sometime soon. Next slide.
Dr. Kumar, do we use all of the funds that were available under the carbon reduction program on here?
So for this project, what was allocated was used. So it's the sidewalk projects where numbers are revised.
So, but are there any other carbon reduction funds available?
Now so that's up to the new administration. At this point in time, we are waiting for any instruction because we were if things were as they were a year ago, right now we would have issued a new call for proposal for CRP. Okay. But right now, none of that fund is being released. And so as we get instruction, we will of course bring it up. Next slide. Yes, we also have on our website, we used to get a lot of questions about the AADT and what the traffic counts and such. So as the TxDOT is improving its data serving capabilities, we are taking some of those APIs and embedding them into our website. And so right now, for instance, all the vehicle traffic counts for McLennan County area, we have consolidated to the point that you can very quickly access it to the website, and which has a lot of detailed traffic data, statistics, counts, and it has quite a bit of interactive visualization as well. So we have added that to the website. We have also added the bicycle and pedestrian count exchange. So this is a collaborative effort between TxDOT and TTI, in which they collect data on bike pedestrian activities across the state. And so we have added the links to that as well, and you can see where the numbers are. In fact, at 2 meetings ago, we had presented the numbers that we had for the McLennan County area. And we have also updated link for several other sources. And before we end, can you go back to the local fund slide? I believe it was slide 27. 27. A little further back. Yeah, there we go. Yes. At the last meeting, Mayor Holmes had asked us to, present that, table about, what have we been able to use with our local funds. And so we did send out the letter to all the municipalities to submit their funds. And in fact, we were very delighted to see from City of Lacey Lakeview actually a physical check. And so, and so we have gone ahead and deposited directly with City of Hewitt as well. So thank you for that. And I'm sure it'll come up, but we wanted to make sure that this was clearly laid out there. So for the next 3 years, what we have is that we already have committed about $8.8 million of federal funding, and with the $790,000 in total of local match, of which we're expecting about $500,000 of that to come out of the local fund over the next 5 years. And so for a total investment of about $9.5 million using the local funds. And so this was the breakdown, and we wanted to make sure that you had access to the still. Those are all the updates. Okay.
Okay, any questions about the monthly report? And now we'll try to move on to item number 12 on the agenda, announcements. The next regularly scheduled MPO Policy Board meeting is Thursday, April 17th, 2025 at 1:30 p.m. Cannot attend the meeting, please ensure you have assigned a proxy to represent you. Does anyone have an agenda item they would like to have considered for a future meeting? If not, move on to agenda item 13, hearing of visitors. This time we provide an opportunity for the public to address the MPO Policy Board on any item of MPO business not identified on this agenda. Please note that the Policy Board cannot respond to comments received during this hearing. Danielle?
En este momento brindamos una oportunidad para que el público se dirigiera a la Junta de Políticas sobre MPO sobre cualquier tema de negocios de MPO no identificado en esta agenda.
Thank you. So we'll open the hearing of visitors at 2:39 p.m. Do we have any registration cards for items not on the agenda? No. There are none. Then we can close the hearing of visitors at 2:39 p.m. Move on to item number 14. Adjournment. Being no further business, we will adjourn the meeting at 2:35 p.m. What's up the time? We'll get it. 2:34, not 2:30.
Let me just come. Yeah.